going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz, Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, here with a little tiny part one of a preview talking about NXT Great American Bash 2024. And why do I say it's going to be a short preview? Because there's only 3 matches and a couple of segments that we were given after this week's episode of NXT. Now, don't know when this is going out. I'm recording this on Wednesday because it seemed like a way better idea than watching Dynamite, even though it's blood and guts. And then I'm probably going to go watch some Crowder, because Crowder's streaming live tonight for those of you out there that are interested in that type of thing. It's a two-night event, or a 2-week event, I should say. So 3 matches announced for tonight, plus some segments that are going to definitely lead into the following week, night 2. I don't know how I feel about them stretching it out over 2 nights. You could have just had bang, 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 bang matches on one episode and done the segments in a go-home show. But, I mean, they're going to Sci-Fi. They want to maintain their viewership. Roddy, rah, all the boring shit we don't need to talk about tonight. So we'll get out the segments out of the way first. First of all, there he is, over there. Sorry, still backwards, still trying to get the graphic thing going. Joe Hendry is doing his first concert in NXT, which is going to be hilarious. Who's he going to make fun of? Probably Gallus. Who's going to interrupt? Probably Gallus. They're probably going to get an impromptu Joe Coffey versus Joe Hendry. There you go, Cup of Joe and another Joe. I hate myself already. Yeah, so it's either going to be an impromptu match right then and there, or they'll set it up for night 2. Joe Hendry doing the comedy stuff is fine. They're really going in 2-footed with Joe Hendry with the video packages, with him being on commentary, with him even doing voiceover on the rest of the show, which is a lot of fun as well. Plus, people just upset that he's there. I don't ever want, and this is good. This is been a topic of conversation since the NXT TNA thing has started. I do not want this to be an invasion. I don't want a TNA versus NXT thing. I think the way they're working collaboratively is awesome. I do think you're missing the trick if you don't play it up as a couple of the heels on NXT and a couple of the heels in TNA don't like that the deal is happening, so they will make a point of fucking with whoever's visiting. I mean, the prime example is the Rascals, which you could do either way. Have somebody attack Wes Lee on TNA for being an NXT guy. Have somebody else from NXT attack the other 2 for being TNA guys on their show. I do think you can play with that. I think instead of having company versus company, have some synergy between the companies and have a couple individuals that don't like that that's happening. It looks like they're doing that with Gallus, and the No Quarter Catch crew going the other way was a lot of fun as well. Slammiversary. As I say, I don't know when this is going out, but I hope to be releasing it around the same time as I do the latest State of Wrestling with myself and Jake DeMarco. So we will be touching on Slammiversary there. I'm not really going to touch on it here because it doesn't really factor into this, or at least not that we know of as of yet. But Joe Hendry's probably going to be interrupted by Gallus, and they're going to get that up and off the ground. You're going to have Joe Hendry's debut singles match. Either they do it impromptu, as I say, they do it next week, etc. The other less likely thing, because he came to Trick Williams' aid a couple of weeks ago when Siobhan Evans was taken out by Josh Briggs, and Trick Williams needed a tag team partner, so we said his name and he appeared, and he was getting involved with Sean Spears and Ethan Page and everybody in the title picture. There's a minor chance that, like, Ethan Page or Sean Spears could come out and try to fuck with him, but Ethan Page has some other stuff that we're going to talk about later. Sean Spears is into the Brooks Jensen and Josh Briggs scenario, so I think that's a thread they're going to let drop for now. Do I think that Joe Hendry versus Ethan Page for the title is going to be something down the road, maybe at No Mercy, maybe at Halloween Havoc, etc.? Absolutely. Do not do it on an elevated weekly episode. Make a big deal out of that, like you did with Jordan Grace. Now, it's not going to be title for title because Joe Hendry did not win the 6-man at Slammiversary. No, I don't think that's the end of the world. Yes, I'm happy for Nick Nemeth because dude needed some recognition somewhere. But with or without a corresponding title, Joe Hendry versus Ethan Page is something you could put on a pay-per-view eventually. So I'm sure it's going to be hilarious. I'm sure we're going to get one of his comedy shtick videos that are great. I still think the one with where he the whole song was basically based around Brian Myers being Edge's bitch. The one that he did about AJ Francis, where he said please retire, and he couldn't do the flop and all that kind of stuff. That came from WWE. You know, the guilty comedic pleasures of WWE led to AJ Francis being made fun of in another company. So he's going to do something like that. It's going to be a lot of fun. People are excited about Joe Hendry. I get it. I still stick to it, though. Joe Hendry and Jordan Grace were the two big names, the first two big names that came across. I still pop for Kazarian being in the Battle Royal, and I'm sorry, my guilty pleasure out of all of this collaboration so far has been the reunion of the Rascals for a bunch of reasons. Big chunk of that is finally justice for Zachary Wentz. That's a conversation you can have with me, but it's not going to be a very long conversation. And I mean, on the tail end of that is we get Trey Miguel in NXT, which isn't any kind of bad thing. Saw him first in Destiny. Yes, check it off your Spaz Phoenix bucket list. It's fine. All kinds of ways this could go. All kinds of ways you could go with somebody from TNA. I mean, coming from the shenanigans, shall we say, of Slammiversary and how that all went down, specifically with the heel turn of Josh Alexander. Josh Alexander following Joe Hendry to NXT to fuck with them, potentially teaming up with his old tag team partner, Ethan Page, because they're both champions. Could be a lot of fun. There's so much fun. People are saying, oh my god, it's just, you know, a couple people went here and there. No, it's a lot of fun. Fuck off. That's all I've got. Fuck off. It's a lot of fun. Leave me alone. Let me have my NXT fun. It's fine. Speaking of Ethan Page, he doesn't have a match this week, but he's got the contract signing between himself, Oro Mensah, that's going to take place as probably the main event of night 2. Let's be real for a second. There's going to be fuckery. What else do you really want me to say? Ethan Page, Oro Mensah. The only thing I could see possibly messing this up is the whole thing being interrupted by Trick Williams. But it feels like Trick Williams has been set aside for the moment. They just started up this weird rivalry between himself, Cedric Alexander, and Ashanti the Adonis. But Ashanti the Adonis it's weird, right? Okay, I stopped myself in my tracks there because you got Alexander and Ashanti that have just come back to NXT that are roughly a tag team. They haven't wrestled as a tag team yet, but they've sort of come in as a unit off the back of Stevie Turner and Mr. Robert Stone trying to recruit them to NXT to impress Ava, which is another side thing altogether. Now, two people want Ethan Page's championship. One of them is Oro Mensah. Oro Mensah also has personal reasons. The other is Trick Williams, who got kind of shafted at Heatwave. I was there. It was a lot of fun, but it was, from Trick Williams' point of view, he kind of got screwed. So, here's the deal. You got Oro Mensah and Trick Williams, who both want a shot at Ethan Page. Oro Mensah also now has an issue with Ashanti the Adonis, because Ashanti the Adonis is hitting on, what's her name, Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend. And Trick Williams had a back and forth with Cedric Alexander, started respectful, ended up not so much. They had an impromptu match later on that night. So, out of all this, is there going to be some fuckery with the title match next week, and we end up getting a tag team match with Ashanti the Adonis, Cedric Alexander versus Oro Mensah and Trick Williams, which is funny when you see the history between Trick Williams and the Meta 4, missing Noam Dar, by the way, so right now they're the Meta 3, which is absolutely fine. It's going to be signed. Like, there's going to be fuckery after the fact. The match is going to be signed for next week. It's already been announced. We just haven't had the contract signing because wrestling is weird. Ethan Page is going to beat Oro Mensah in 2 weeks. Spoiler for my Night 2 predictions. But Ethan Page is not... He's not going to come in with the fanfare that he's had so far. Immediately have 2 title matches on pay-per-view, win the second one, and then drop it on an elevated weekly episode. This isn't a thing that's going to happen because it's going to be Trick Williams eventually. If we don't do the Joe Hendry like crossover thing first, it is going to be Trick Williams trying to get his title back at either No Mercy or Halloween Havoc. Oro Mensah is going to give him a decent match, probably going to squash him, probably give him a shot in the nuts. Who the hell knows? Because of how late on it is, and because the women's title match that we're going to talk about shortly is kind of the same way. We're going to get some pretty good showcase matches for contenders that are going to be believable contenders later on down the road. Does that make sense? Oro Mensah, Ethan Page. Ethan Page is keeping his title. Let's be real for a second. The contract signing is probably going to be all kinds of nonsense because you've got all kinds of threads you can pull. Trick Williams and the Metaphor and everybody else are barred from ringside or something like that. And then what happens is Ava doesn't think about Sean Spears, and Sean Spears and Ethan Page are a team, or maybe next week you bring out Josh Alexander to help Ethan Page, or something along those lines. Josh Alexander and Ethan Page as a tag team in NXT is something I need to see for real. Don't know. Lots of threads to pull, but bottom line, we're going to get names on paper, and the match is going to happen in the following week. So, kind of like the Joe Hendry thing, like anything and everything can happen, but it's... Don't know why I'm making all these motions with my hands, just because I'm back on camera again. This one's a little more cut and dry because they're going to sign some papers. Maybe somebody's going to go through a table. Ava's going to yell at somebody. It's fine. I'm sure Mr. Stone and Stevie Turner will try to interject and help Ava and make things 10 times worse. Maybe there'll be a special referee. Maybe Joe Hendry's the special referee. We're going to stick Joe Hendry everywhere. Pause. Let's switch over to the actual matches we have set up for next week on night 1. Alba Fire and Isla Dawn are the tag team champions. Don't know if you know this, but I'm kind of loving that. Oh, they just gave it to them because it was in Scotland and it was a nice thing to do. Wrestling is supposed to be good and nice sometimes. Just fuck off. It's fine. They're going to take on Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend, and they're going to retain their titles because people are lining up on the main roster for them. Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill are going to get the belts back at some point because, of course, they are. Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend aren't terrible, but one of the other girls in the back even pointed out when they said they should get a title shot, I was like, when was the last time you guys even teamed up, and when was the last time you had a win? So there's that. Isla Dawn is also in weird behind the scenes but not really conversations because it was her that had the matches with Stephanie Vaquer on the Mexican house shows that were being shown in the back on somebody's phone to hype up Stephanie Vaquer and all that kind of thing. Maybe they get a short run in NXT because these are the titles that run on all 3 brands, and maybe they but enhance some of the pairings and trios that we see. We saw the pairing of Carmen Petrovic and Sol Ruca this past week on NXT, and that's a tag team that's probably got legs because now that she's signed a new deal, I'm sure Natty is doing other things. Natty was working with with Carmen Petrovic for quite a while, but we haven't seen her since her contract thing came into doubt and then wasn't anymore, and we haven't really seen her. It'll be a decent match. It'll be a fun match. I like Isla Dawn and Alba Fire. I am with the people that say you just put these belts on these girls. Why don't we see them in the ring more? Because I would like to see them in the ring more. They're probably going to go up against Sonya Deville's new faction. They're probably going to go up against Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. To the people out there that are saying, put the belts on Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend and let Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend represent NXT at SummerSlam against Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. Let me tell you why that doesn't work. I would absolutely love it. Unless it's a weekend where they're pairing up a WWE pay-per-view and an NXT pay-per-view, because then focus on your own shit. But when you've got a big pay-per-view, and there's no corresponding NXT pay-per-view, or no what would have used to been a takeover, I would love to see more NXT representation on a WWE pay-per-view, especially SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, etc. But here's the thing. WWE right now isn't going to do that. I don't think they're going to do it with an act like The Metaphor. I would worry if they did, because there's no way that Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill lose to Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend. So it would be a case of, okay, somebody in NXT won these titles that are tri-branded titles, and it lasted a week. We brought them to the main roster to feed them to the machine. Also, Bianca Belair's been handed enough titles. Also, Jade Cargill is awesome and needs to be thrown into that scenario along with the likes of Bayley, Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton, etc. I say Nia Jax because she's Queen of the Ring and she's got the next title shot. I say Tiffany Stratton because she's got the Money in the Bank, so she's got the title shot eventually. I say Bayley because she's the current champion right now. So there's your title picture. Your title picture right now on SmackDown is Bayley, is Nia Jax, is Tiffany Stratton. So, put Jade Cargill in there. Somewhere. I don't even care if it's for the briefcase. Have her have an exhibition match or have her have a one-on-one match with Tiffany Stratton. Have her say, Bayley, I want you next for that title, but until then I'm going to make sure these two don't fuck with you. Something like that. Bianca Belair can fuck off and give somebody else some spotlight. I've said it before, and I've said it on the pod with Jake, and I've said it in other scenarios here. That team of Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. Bianca Belair is the better wrestler. I will give her that, 100%. I'm also getting sick of her. Her personality is also grating. Her presence and star power and influence and, what's the word everybody's using right now? Aura is absolutely outshone by Jade Cargill. Give her, not saying give her the world, I'm saying give her a chance to show you what it's gonna look like when you give her the world. Does that make sense? Am I completely out of whack there? Give Jade a chance, is all I'm saying. But having Jade Cargill, along with Bianca Belair, chew up and spit out a relatively decent women's tag team from NXT doesn't help them, doesn't help the perception of NXT, doesn't help anything, really. I really wish they hadn't amalgamated the women's tag titles, I'm not going to lie. Especially when it was the Unholy Union versus like the two MMA superstars that you knew were going to kill them. Anyways, Unholy Union's coming back to NXT for a week. That'll be a lot of fun. I like them. I wish they were featured more on regular television. Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend are getting some sort of profile because they're in a title match, but they're not going to win by any stretch of the imagination whatsoever. Same thing goes realistically for Tony D'Angelo taking on Tavion Heights. Now, again, I'll say go back to Slammiversary, the No Quarter Catch crew taking on the Rascals on Slammiversary, which I was not aware of when I made the prediction. I was pretty sure we were going to get it, but I didn't preview it because it hadn't been announced and I hadn't seen the last episode of Impact, etc., etc., etc. It was the first time, really, that for an extended period of time I've seen anything from Tavion Heights. I've seen with Miles Bourne, and I've seen Charlie Dempsey quite a bit. Charlie Dempsey's going back to Bloodsport, along with Shayna Baszler and the Creeds and some other people, and Josh Briggs is going to Japan for something. That's always awesome. But yeah, no, incredible match. Not to steal any thunder away from the actual review I'm going to do with Jake. That's a really fun match. It was probably... Do I compare it to the main event? Maybe. I would say it's on par. The three members of the Rascals versus the three members of the No Quarter Catch crew in the 3-on-3 match at Slammiversary, probably on par with the main event. Hammerstone and Eric Young on the pre-show for 5 minutes, just doing a bit of death before the show actually started, was really fun too. Anyways, not the point, not what we're talking about tonight. But Tavion Heights is a fucking wrestling beast, and I would really like to see more of him. The story, however, is No Quarter Catch crew and the D'Angelo family. It's already we know going to come to a head when once again we get Tony D'Angelo defending against Charlie Dempsey, the leader of one family versus the leader of the other. The whole Charlie Dempsey trying to model himself after the family and trying to be stereotypical Italian when we know he's William Regal's son is off-putting enough to be really funny. This will be, again, I use this a lot. This will be a great showcase for Tavion Heights. It'll be a different challenge for somebody that's so new to the brand and whatever. Tony D'Angelo carrying the cup in general is kind of fun. They've got the other story on the side with Red and Sinclair that knows that they killed Damon Kemp and put him in a trunk because it's NXT. It's going to be a hell of a match, and Tony D'Angelo... kind of looking for him to show out here too, because he's already a main character on NXT, but there's a lot of people out there that say he's only character and not really a wrestler, and I think that's way too far in the selling Tony D'Angelo short scenario. He's not the best. I'm not going to say that. He's not an Olympic athlete. He's not, some of what the Rascals are doing. He's not even doing what the No Quarter Catch crew are doing. He's a WWE sports entertainer. As much as that term has been bastardized these days. He is that, but he's a good version of that, because there can be a good version of that. And I think because his character is such a character, his ability in the ring is criminally underrated. Somebody like a Tavion Heights doing this for the first time, and Tony D'Angelo being able to show, I've already had a few of these matches, I'm more comfortable in this match, is going to do a lot for that in-ring stereotype, for lack of a better term. Plus he's got Crucifino and Stax, and the Riz on the outside. I'm assuming Ren Sinclair is going to come slap the Riz, and then we're going to have like a 4-on-4 intergender tag the following week, or something to that effect. Charlie Dempsey's going to have to finally accept Ren Sinclair as part of the group. It's going to be weird. She's going to try and be the Ivy Nile, like Ivy Nile was with the Diamond Mine before the Diamond Mine joined Chad Gable, and it's all very, very connected, isn't it? It's going to be fun. The title's not going anywhere. It's like Paige and Oro Mensah. It's going to be fun. The title ain't going anywhere. It's like the Unholy Union versus the Metaphor. It's going to be fun, but the title isn't going anywhere. Tony D'Angelo versus Tavion Heights. It's going to be fun, but the cup ain't going anywhere. And guess what? When Roxanne Perez takes on Thea Hale, it's going to be fun, but the title ain't going anywhere. I really do think Thea Hale is awesome. Her energy is awesome. Very recently on a previous podcast, I had a huge conversation with Jake about wrestlers that are just feel-good wrestlers. Sol Ruka is one. Kalani Jordan is one. Over there, we've got Willow Nightingale, who's also another great example of somebody who's just like awesome energy person. Awesome energy with somebody with a group like the New Day. Awesome energy with a reunion like the Rascals. That I'm not going to stop talking about it. By the way, really, really happy to see Zachary Wentz back on NXT. Why? Say it with me. Say it loud. Say it proud. It pisses off all the right people. Oh yes, Thea Hale is another good vibes, good feeling person. And it's fun. And the Chase U thing is, Chase U's not going to work on the main roster. Well, they're not on the main roster, are they? Realistically speaking, let's go. I'm distracting myself with what I look like in the video camera. That's not great, is it? Roxanne Perez, Thea Hale is going to be a great match. Roxanne Perez is going to be incredibly mean, devious, cruel, whatever. We're going to have a tease at some point, I'm pretty sure, of, what's his name? Andre Chase. There we go. We're going to have a tease of Andre Chase throwing in the towel again, and Thea Hale's going to say, fuck you, take your towel and get out of here. I predict that that's going to be a spot in the match. Roxanne Perez, lots of experience being champion, lots of experience even before she got to NXT. It's entirely plausible that she could just out-wrestle Thea Hale. I do have this other minor thing where her and heel Fallon Henley and JC Jane and Jasmine Nix, there's a good cluster of heel women on the NXT roster as well. Could they do something? Could they be under Roxanne Perez and going after all the rookies and all that? That could be a thing. I don't necessarily think it's going to happen on this show. What this show will provide to do, she's going to beat the shit out of Thea Hale. She is. Because she's already playing off the whole, oh my god, I can't believe this is who I have to work with thing. She's already name-checked a couple of people. She's already name-checked Stephanie Vacour, who's had her debut, at least in a house show capacity. She's already name-checked Julia, who's cleared to wrestle because she wrestled on the Marigold show. She hasn't quite name-checked Delta because that news just came out this week. I don't know much about Delta, I'm not going to lie. But a big, nasty-looking Australian powerhouse. Who on the main roster could she possibly have a feud with? Anyways, and always lingering in the background is the once again resurgence of Jordynne Grace. So, as much as there is somebody else that I would like to see come over from TNA just to fuck with her, and that would be Rosemary, because that would be a lot of fun, but that's more because it's specifically up my street. But if you look at the people that could come out to challenge her after the fact, NXT used to do this a lot. You'd have the match that was kind of predictable, and then somebody else would come out, and the real challenge for down the road would make itself more known, which I think is what's going to happen at with Ethan Page and Oro Mensah as well. When Page wins and beats the crap out of Oro Mensah's feeling the agony of defeat and all that shit, you're going to have either Trick Williams or Joe Hendry come out and challenge him for No Mercy. I think that's going to be the case. I think it'll be the same thing here. Roxanne Perez is going to handily beat the shit out of Thea Hale. The match is going to be over, or it's going to be called, or the referee's going to call it, or Mr. Chase is going to throw the towel in or whatever the case may be. Roxanne Perez is going to take it over the line, keep beating her up after the match, keep torturing her after the match, probably put her in a submission or hit her with like 25 pop rocks or something. 4 pop rocks at Scotiabank Arena for Heatwave, and me being right there cheering her on the whole damn way. Let her do something like that again, way, way, way over the top, and then she's interrupted by somebody's music. Whether it's Delta, whether it's Julia, whether it's Stephanie Vacour, whether it's Jordan Grace, whether it's somebody else from the roster, whether it's somebody else from Raw or SmackDown, her next big challenger is going to come while she's basking in the glory of beating the shit out of this nice, positive energy person who's just, taking a stab at it to get the title shot in Thea Hale. And she's the perfect person to be overlooked by a heel. To build her sympathy for later on down the line when she eventually wins the title, etc. Thea Hale was a speed bump. I'll step right over that and go on my merry way. Oh shit, it's fill in the blank. For me, because she's already made her debut, probably Stephanie Vacour. Like I say, it doesn't always have to be a surprise from somewhere else. It doesn't always have to be somebody from the main roster. It doesn't always have to be somebody from TNA. It could just be the next person on the roster that wants, maybe Sol Ruka steps up to her or something like that. But it would be a lot more fun if it was a big, big, big surprise. And personally, because we're getting there, I know it's only, July right now, but Halloween is, at this point, I don't know when this video is going out, but at the point of recording, Halloween is 99 days away. Rosemary would be really fun in NXT, wouldn't she? So would the Hardys, but that's a whole nother dirt sheet conversation to have at another time altogether. Broken Matt and Brother Nero on NXT. Are you fucking kidding me? NXT goes to the Hardy comp. I'm getting off track now. This is only night 1. I know you reserve comments like that for WrestleMania or when the 2-night SummerSlam comes along. These are just elevated weekly episodes of NXT, but the weekly elevated episode of NXT is so good that I can say, oh my god, this is only night 1. What are you guys thinking about night 1? There's probably been a million matches more announced between the time I recorded this and the time it actually goes out. So throw it down in the comment section below or find me on X at Spaz Phoenix. It's absolutely fine. I've been Spaz, your YWC Reality Check. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation, keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I will talk to each and every last one of you later, but for right now, I am tagging out.